Current day Snow White. Snow Brown edition. Evil Queen told she's less attractive than a gurning socialist.
What?
Gal's out here asking the mirror if she's still a 10, while the film's sitting at a 2.2 on IMDb.
Oh, that's gonna hurt!
7 vertically challenged incels. Can't call them dwarfs anymore, because Lord Dwarf Supreme Dinky Pete told Disney it was problematic. Now they're all CGI and 7 desperate short rounds are out of a friggin' job.
Fuck you!
Yep, this film is a full-on hate crime against cinema, and I'm here for every abysmal second, son.
Full recap starts now.
Film starts with the narrator farcically changing the origin story of a Disney classic. Snow White's now called Snow White because she was born in a snowstorm, so stop whining on and wondering why a dysgenic Latina shitlib is playing a princess who's traditionally meant to be as white as fucking snow, and shut up about it, bigot! Continues yapping about how everything was once a utopian paradise where everyone sang all the time, well back when the OG royals were running things, and sitting atop a literal diamond mining shit.
Nobody cares! And you need to shut up!
Turns out the Queen Mum died real quick. King married this narcissistic Israeli witch bitch who turned up one day and started doing magic tricks to impress the locals, and much like Kim Kardashian, was a bit too obsessed with her own reflection.
I totally get it.
What?
Mirror AI glazing her 24/7. You're a solid 10 babes, lol, trust me bro. And to be fair, I'm not particularly that surprised that Geezer's now raging super simp after being trapped in glass for years, presumably just for telling the truth about her fat ass one time. Or some shit. Anyway, power soon went to her head. Cooked up fake news about an invaded army from the south. Dutiful king fucked off to war. And before you can say, I wish old sausage fingers would sod off to Pakistan and do the same for us,
What are those?
the Queen straight up cooed the socialist utopia. Turned local farmers into a personal goon squad, and made poor Snow a scullery maid, before humiliating her by slapping her with the shittest hairdo in the kingdom.
What a fucking liberty!
Shameless thief Jonathan breaks into the castle to nick food for the starving. Lol. Raiding the Queen's greedy pantry hoard. Gotta love it. Cause this based AF socialist bandit don't really give a stuff about the Queen's personal belongings and notions of private ownership, so he's out here redistributing the literal fruits of the community's labour into his and his mates' bellies.
Nice.
The super naive Latina twonk then gets convinced by a bemused squirrel to beg the Queen to stop being a fucking greedy guts and share her grub already. Said greedy fat pig just laughs in her face. Even though I'm unhealthily obsessed with the superficial size and weight of my external form, and thus you think I'd be very careful about what I put in my body and kind of stay away from gluttony and all kinds of excess foods, I'm still going to keep it all to myself for shits and giggles, bitch.
Okay.
Catches Jonathan using food as a belly warmer. Snow pleads for mercy. Queen just drags her in front of a reflective surface and tells her to quote,
Look at yourself. Isn't this what you want?
and before you can say, oh well, I prefer Sydney Sweeney in a tight corset leading this film, but I guess we'll have to settle for an ethnic ironing board with an eye gap you can park a Greyhound motorbus in, she's left humiliated once again and forced to do some cringy singing to cheer herself up.
Hoping somehow, someway, there comes a miracle to find me.
Somebody kill me, please!
Snow saves Jonathan from a bit of fatal freezing and tries to fatten him up with carbs. And presumably also poisoning him with gluten, given she didn't even ask if he has dietary requirements or any intolerance she should know about.
That's so dangerous.
Mirror grows some balls and says that Snowbird's somehow fairer now, despite still looking like Rachel frickin' Ziegler.
Bruh.
Queen hires a chocolatey huntsman to kill her and bring the heart back as proof. Naturally, he bottles it, given he's a local DEI hire what used to be a simple farmer and was totally elevated above his station without even a formal interview for the position. Spills tea about her dad maybe possibly being alive somehow maybe. Just warns her to skedaddle and never come back, or else they'll both be on the chopping block. Later, Snow Brown gets manhandled by evil twigs like she's just stepped into a deleted scene from an Evil Dead movie. Luckily, she falls into a small river, nearly friggin' drowns, and just wakes up surrounded by furries in the woods. And before you can say, last time I woke up to a gang of furries in the woods, I couldn't walk straight for a week,
Daddy, chill.
she wanders off into a local cottage, crashes out in some rando's bed with her shoes on.
I feel like that's just rude.
Then 7 fat-ass gnome fellas appear, who don't ever seem to stop singing about drugged up prostitutes or some shit.
Hi-ho! Hi-ho!
and who seem unnaturally happy about heading on down to the mines to start their dead-end 9 to 5, but don't even seem to have basic health and safety regulations or even a single fucking seatbelt. This team of dodgy manual labourers just seem to spend all day creating utter carnage and pissing around on company time, as one narcoleptic cunt almost self-deletes over a fucking cliff.
What, are you retarded?
Bros return home from a hard day's graft down the pit, and the 7 vertically challenged incels, who all seem to live together in an unlicensed HMO for tax purposes, just can't believe they finally got to go into bed without even trying for once.
It was super easy, barely an inconvenience.
Gang about to Bollock Dopey for ordering a prosy on Uber Meats again, but just realise she's a free Hispanic maid service before proceeding to ask if she's even human. And before she could say, "Oh fuck me, I know I'm no Sydney Sweeney, but I ain't that cooked, son," they properly introduce themselves as bashful, dopey, grumpy, happy, sleepy, sneezy, and a budget mini Santa cosplayer, aka Doc. Turns out these weirdos mine diamonds that fund the kingdom's abundance, as she reveals how the naughty queen's up there hoarding a lot of it right now. Snow also explains how she's technically an asylum seeker after her kind of sort of stepmum put out a fat ass fatwa on her head just for being prettier than her even though she ain't, so wagwan bro. Anyway, the horny horn dogs naturally let her stay, mainly to see what other services she may indeed offer in return. Mira keeps saying Snow Turd's fairer, yo. Queen can't believe her magic glass man is presumably now implying that she looks worse than a fucking corpse. Nor that her hastily recruited DEI hire failed to do his one job and instead let her stepdaughter live. Like bro, that was the complete opposite of what you were meant to do. No! So just goes and fondles an apple, belts out an even cringier song than all the others in preparation for his execution. Whilst I just end up begging her to reach through the screen to execute me instead, having to enjoy the talentless caterwauling of Gal Gadot, trying to do acting, singing and the world's stiffest dancing all at once.
When you're the fairest of
Cut to next morning. Grumpy bullies poor mute Dopey, whilst Happy promptly sticks up for his mate, or what looks unnervingly like Mad Magazine's Alfred E. Newman because reasons, and says just because he's silent and special and looks like a fucking tard, don't mean he's actually a crayon muncher. But alas, a giant brawl breaks out, which is only stopped when everyone unites to point and laugh at poor Dopey getting capped by a small bowl of porridge.
Oh, that's cold.
Naturally, he feels like a ripe plum, and soon runs outside to have a little cry. And before you can say, I'd stop laughing if I were you boys because he looks one breakfast brawl away from shooting up a school, bleeding heart libtard Snow White heads outside to cheer him up a bit. Encourages him to use his words, only to immediately tell him to go back to being silent after he asks her for a super sloppy BJ. After whistling all the time. Later, after yet another gay-ass song about enjoying your vocation by making weird mouth sounds.
Whistle while you work.
Shut the fuck up, you cunt!
She wonders what the huntsman meant about the queen lying to her about her dad. Because maybe he's still alive, yo, and if she can team up with Johnny Boy and his merry band of merry bandits, she might have a shot at restoring the kingdom and finally reclaiming her birthright and stuff.
If you say so.
So Snow links up with Jonathan again. He's like, yo, I ain't got a Scooby about your pussy old dad who nobody's seen in ages, and just tells her to stop banging on about kindness, fairness and all that other gay shit, and shut up about it already. Cut to battle with guards. Snow distracts them by tossing off her dress and presumably running about the forest totally stark-ass naked. And before you can say, oh why didn't you fuckers just cast Sydney Sweeney for God's sake, especially given her great genes and shit? Turns out it was just her overlayer, so they could all get away in the chaos, and we thankfully don't have to endure the sight of the scrawny surfboard in the buff for the rest of the film.
Oh, thank God.
And although there's sadly no naked girls running around the woods, Johnny Boy still ends up getting some penetration in, mainly by taking a pointed shaft to the shoulder.
The back door was always an option.
Snow takes him over to that specky midget bloke, who promptly tells her he's actually a doc in name only, and instead got his credentials from www.arealgooddiplomasforyou.com, but manages to wing it and heal him up anyway, and then trolls her to her face by mocking her special friend.
Oh, friend! Oh, new friend! Oh, friend! Please be my friend! Oh, friend! Oh, friend!
Fuck you lot, where's the beer?
Naturally, they both deny they got raging lob-ons for each other, Oh well, especially since this one has zero bust even in a frigging corset, and instead just get to dancing to distract from all the humiliating awkwardness going on.
Yeah, that's probably good, yeah.
Snow turns the tables and this time teases Doc about his crush on the chocolate bird in the gang. And before you can say holy interracial midget love, Batman, she convinces them all to come help her fight the Queen's forces so she can totally become a bona fide princess bird again. Meanwhile, Jonathan gets captured, rats out the locations of all his mates. So the Queen brews up a special potion to transform her into a withered old hag who looks just about old enough to join the US Congress. Queen baits naive Snow with taking delicious comestibles from the hands of strangers. Dwarfs rush back, find the witch gone, and poor Snow White stiffer than her actor's acting ability. And also her colleagues' rigid dancing.
The truest of beauty will shine from inside. Well, if somebody said that, somebody lied.
What the fuck is this piece of shit?
Speaking of, finally concedes that she's now the prettiest bird in the kingdom. A result! Whilst Jonathan escapes from the dungeon below, forces a smack on the feminist boss bitch, what wishes Trump supporters never know a minute of peace IRL, and promptly snogs her back to life.
I think there's been a rape up there.
She wakes up, tells him to pop a tic tac next time. Heads off to storm the castle, armed only with the power of song and weirdly incessant gurning.
Yes, Queen, slay!
And even Dopey finally nuts up and uses his words rather than pointless whistles, insisting that they ain't afraid of that whiny bitch, and totally won't rest until Palestine is free or some shit. Snow confronts a settler queen. Oi bitch, you killed my pops, stole the land and even tried to freaking genocide me. And well, that just ain't fucking on, son. Queen then baits her to yeet her in front of a bunch of kiddies and loyal subjects. Poor Snow can't. Total pussy yo. Instead reminds guards that they were all farmers, and also how nice it was around here before we got colonised by God's chosen person, what causes chaos and misery wherever she goes. And I don't just mean with their terrible acting performances.
Kalel, no!
Luckily, they cuck out and switch sides again. Queen goes for the kill. And it looks like it's curtains for Rachel Ziegler, or well, at least her acting career if this utter bomb is anything to go by. But snap! Dagger shot out in the nick of time by her backup B team of banditos.
Now that's what I'm talking about!
Queen retreats up to a mirror, who confirms that because beauty really comes from within, Snow White will now always be on top, giving the Queen's ugly and cold as fuck on the inside. And before you can say, oh wait, wouldn't that mean that Snow White must have been technically uglier than the Queen on the inside all these years right before now? Oh well, if the mirror was constantly saying that Queenie was top G for the past decade or so. She just smashes said mirror in a fit of jealous rage, and somehow ends up getting severe eczema and then sucked up inside it. Because reasons.
Weird.
And the whole thing ends with the entire kingdom now celebrating the new princess after their literal peasants' revolt, as everyone ends up happy, and also a bunch of white supremacists by the looks of it.
Based AF.
And that's it. That's the movie. Though, gotta say my favourite part was simply listening to Mark Commode's stellar 5-star review of this magical masterpiece.
It becomes quite terrible. I will be honest with you, I sat there thinking, as I have done with a lot of these reboots, this would be so much better if it didn't exist.
But anyway, that's the plot and that's your lot. Like, share and sub so I can eventually get monetised, and finally quit debating myself on OnlyFans for £52 of monthly revenue. Comment below, did this flick have you hi-hoing or hi the heck hell knowing? Did it make you whistle while you watched, or just want to poison your own lunchtime fruit pot after seeing how badly Disney fumbled the bag on their own remake of a 100-year-old classic? Either way, ring that bell thing to stay notified of future vids, and I'll force unsolicited smackers on sleepy young girls with zero consequences, with you, in the next one.